Hello, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and let's see, share my screen so we can get started with a little opening sort of PowerPoint stuff here. There are all the clicks in Zoom to do it. Let's fire this bad boy up. Come here. So I guess first of all, let's make sure that we are getting the opening page, that everybody can hear me just fine. We're all good. Dan, give me a thumbs up. Okay, cool. So what we wanted to do with this webinar was go over applying the new PL Series speakers in Q-SYS Designer. We know we do lots of education on how all the collaboration pieces interconnect, the video cameras, the bridging and all that fun, which we're actually using a lot of that with this to do some camera switching and things. But we're going to look at how the loudspeakers get interconnected because there are a lot of property settings that we just haven't gone over yet, and we want to make sure you get the right application right out of the chute. So first of all, we are going to look at the connections of passive and two-way configurations. And to note, this setup is the exact same panel that is on all of the PLCA, the DC, and the LA line array boxes. It does not, we do not have two-way capability for the CA5, the CA6, or the DC24 or the 26. Those items are just passive by nature. So with this, we have, this is kind of straight out of the manual, but I'm going to show you directly. But each box has a back panel that you would need to remove the 6 screws. And then there's a Molex connector that gets shifted over in a position, and there's actually an indicator that will show you what position it's in. So as to, let's go to stop sharing and give this a quick look. Yep. Why do you want to look that way? Okay. Ooh, it doesn't like the background like that. Hang on just a second. No blur in my background. All right. So this is the back panel that's been removed here. And note these 2 circles here are where you would see an indicator where what position you're in. On the panel itself, it will tell you active or passive and active connections. There's a Molex setting here where you connect. And in the back of the speaker, you get this multi-pin connector with this little tab that actually is the indicator. And it's got a locking pin here that you get to right at the very top to remove it. And basically you would just unscrew it and slide it into your multi-pin connector as needed. It's not looking too good on the camera, but it goes in and does a positive connection. And now we may notice that it's showing here in the by nature, this is the way they ship in passive, and it's got that fill piece in it. And of course, all this just fits back in the speaker like so. And going into biamp, you would have pins 1 and 2, pins 1 plus, 1 minus, 2 plus, 2 minus, that way, same as on the NL4s. So that's how it's done in the real world of that. And now we're going to move on to the Q-SYS setup. So let's see here. What do we have coming up? We got that. So, yep. We will now pull up our Q-SYS Designer and go back in the screen sharing here. Where's the good old zoomy buttons at? Got to low all that. All right. Back to there and say yes. All right. Is everyone seeing Q-SYS Designer? Hopefully. Thank you. And let me move these here tabs out the way because they're right over. So we'll start out with the CA series. This is basically just a sandbox file. You're more than welcome to open Designer and follow along if you'd like. I will allow this file. This file will be posted afterwards as you can have it for examples, along with a little PowerPoint that kind of calls out all this that if you need later on. You will notice a slight difference in your file and mine. I actually am running a 10.0.1 version that had a couple things added. It's coming very soon. And our engineers thought that when we were presenting this, it would be good to show you where the changes are coming. They're very minor, but just want to see where they are. So in passive mode, you start out with an amplifier, of course, and you would be wiring your EQ'd mixed signals, whatever you need to them here accordingly as you will with Q-SYS. And we need a speaker. I'm going to slide this over so we have a good view of the properties. And you will notice that the speakers come default as passive. And that would be wired one channel of the amplifier as such. So you'd have your signal to that speaker through the amplifier in passive mode, crossover inside the speaker, ready to go. You have a couple contours here that are available. We allow you to either do flat or our default voicing. This is the Q-SYS voicing of the way we demo the speakers, but you can go ahead and set the internal EQ and crossover to flat if necessary to start with in a room. The other option here is your inline processing, and what that would do is if for some reason you were using another amplifier, you would then have this in front of said amplifier and you would get the voicing characteristics applied. Here, the only difference is that limiting capabilities are not applied here because we have no idea to know what amplifier is out here. So just remember that. If you do use another amplifier for some reason, you had one around or whatever. So this is basically the properties for your default setup. It would just be wiring it and connecting it and hooking an audio signal from whatever upstream you did. To go bi-amp, we will do the exact same thing here, just bring in another amplifier so that you have this as kind of a follow-up sheet. These little things are here, fun in the way. Da, da, da. And now we have the same exact speaker block, but we're going to change it from passive to two-way. And you will notice that you get your high frequency and your low frequency connection. And you would just now use two channels of amplifier to hook this up. Not too crazy, but that's what we do. That's how we get the bi-amp set up. It's all based in these properties here. What is different is if you have your designer open right now, you have a high pass or has sub selection over here, and that's been moved into the actual speaker block now. So if I do a quick emulation of the file, you can then change these on the fly as needed. We default from either no sub, which is full range, an 80 hertz high pass, 100 hertz or 125 hertz high pass, depending on what you may be working with. So you can select one of those and it will put that in for you. You also have a control pin that will allow you to make these changes live if necessary in the event of your system needing some sort of setup change. We do a lot of demoing with full range and then subwoofer, and this keeps that shelving, filtering, and processing to stay in phase with the speaker, so you don't offset phase by putting upstream processing in line with it. Okay, so that was the CAs. To be honest with you, the DCs are the same, but we will go ahead and build that so that you have an example file later. Again, you'll need your amplifier. I've got to get it. Come here. Good old-fashioned emulation. Good
See,
old-fashioned
doesn't
audio
matter if you've been
emulation.
doing
Even
Q-SYS
those of
12
us,
years or
even those of us
12
that think
months.
we're experts at it are not at all an expert. We learn every day. So there you go. Everybody can feel good now because I'm sure that's gotten many people in the same piece with the DC line comes in, wires in by default. You're in passive mode. The difference with the DC line is this is where you would actually select your horn contours and any voicing for that. So we have the 90 by 50, 110 by 50, the 75, and then flat, I believe, is what they're considering laying on its side or horizontal. So you have these different settings for where your horn's going to be. So that helps put the contour in for it. Notice we do not offer a, okay, so that's what they're doing here now. They got our contour, which is our voicing sound, the way we've tuned the speakers to sound, or you can do them in a flat mode. So when they respond, all frequencies are even. Same inline processing available. So basically the same. And if we do the same build for biamp mode, we just go up here and grab us another amplifier because amplifiers are great. Just pile them all in. Now, this is not biamped, obviously, so you would need to select the passive, go to 2A, and now it will let you connect your HF and LF. If I can just the screen move while I do it. And it is telling you what's on what path, just in case you needed to know, but the crossover and everything is truly happening in the speaker block. So no need for any upstream high pass sheltering and crossovers or anything like that, unless for some reason you wanted to make a change on that crossover yourself. You could, but this will default and have our own needed crossovers built in, just allowing you the separate power to adjust some HF and LF balancing. All right, let's shrink this back a little bit. And with the line array series, it's all done basically the same. So we don't want the array config. That comes next, biamp. And we'll bring in another amplifier here. And we're going to use the 8-inch line array this time to show it off. Again, we're in passive mode. The contour options you have are flat or our default. And we're going to get into this setup in the next section. So we're just kind of overlook that. And if you want inline processing, you have that available also. And as to kind of do this again, but to reiterate how it's done, and that way you would have a kind of a sandbox sheet to work with, we would switch this to biamp. And at that point now you would drive this from 2 channels of the amplifier. And again, that gives you the ability to adjust some HF and LF if you want on the box. Some upstream different processing, however you'd like to do. That's really up to how your system design and config is done. The part that's we really want to focus on here is this array configuration, because we do most of the work for you by just putting in some information. So we're going to put an amplifier in, and we are going to I'm going to use the 12-inch line array this time. And we can leave it as a passive array. But what I'm going to do is jump back over to that. We're down this PowerPoint here, and we're going to skip along through some slides and get to this page here. And so what this is showing is we've done an ease focus of an array, and it's broke up into 2 sections of amplifiers. Okay. And by the pinouts, these are the array breaks that are in this array by each section. But there's one thing, the reason why it's considered a 2-segment array or a 1 is you've got some amplifier gain adjustment that made your model work. So that means you have to hook up a different set of amplifiers to be able to turn down the level on the lower section of these arrays. So now that we have this information, what you would want to do is you need to know how many, how many total boxes you have, 7. What is the calculated total number of array breaks for all these numbers? So you add up to 12, the 6, Sorry, that's 4.5, 5, 1.5, 0. And we're not going to go into what's considered a proper way of pinning these arrays. There's a couple that are very basic that we tend to use, which is either spiral or arcuic. And that is dependent on how you calculate these number breaks. They either are going to be even all the way down, or they're going to move in an even number. So we added 1, 1.5, another 1.5, and so on. So we do even breaks as we go down. That causes the array to shape properly and work well. But if anybody's calculated that already, we're looking at 27 degrees total. So let's hop back over to, get out of here. You put you down. Where's good old Q-SYS for me? Here we are. And so this is the speaker block that we were looking at. And we're leaving it in passive. Array correction, yes, we're going to use that. Total number of boxes was 7, but you've got 2 amplifier connections. So you're like, oh, do I take this and duplicate it and now look at it like this, as maybe that's that full array, where the top section was what, 4 boxes, and whatever number was the 4 boxes, let's just say it was 16 degrees, and the bottom section was 3 boxes and 20 degrees. I'm just guessing numbers right now. Would this be the right way to do this? Sorry to say, but it would not be the right way to do this, because the array is thinking that all of this is one array and all these drivers are coupling because they are linked together and they're in a plane. So just telling this that it's only 4 boxes, it's trying to EQ for 4 boxes pinned together, but you've actually got another 3 hanging on there that are adding LF and mid-range and high frequency. So we do see this sometimes done this way because it's like, oh, well, how would I do that? The proper way is to tell it you have a total of 7 boxes. We have a total of that 27 degrees of splay. And now we have segments here, and we tell it we have 2 amplifier segments. And what that will do is actually give you the 2 amplifier segments to connect. So now you have an amplifier channel for the first segment and the second segment. The fact that it's 4 boxes or 3 boxes is not, when you connect the wire out to the speaker itself, that's where you're going to determine that break in the connection. So this would be the bottom 3 boxes, and this would be wired to the top 4 boxes. Clicking. And so this is telling Q-SYS there are 7 drivers of each type stacked on each other. We have taken this thing from being a straight line to a slight bend of 30 degrees almost, 27. And we're powering it in 2 different sections. So it's all one array being calculated. And what this array number here is it's telling our algorithm how many drivers and how much you've actually separated those drivers. So it knows what filtering to put back into the array's processing so that you end up with either our default or our flat output. And our default is just our voice of what we believe the boxes sound right in. And of course, flat would be tailoring the frequencies to be even. So you'd have more or less a flat response into your space. So that's the biggest piece we really wanted to go over with this, is making sure that if you are powering an array in multiple segments, that you use this section here and tell it has 2 segments, but calculate all of this as one stacked array. And I hope that helps with people in the future, because this is a big gotcha, and it can cause your array to sound very bad and not work well, because this will put you in a very, very close output to the exact tuning we want, or having the room, having the output pretty flat, and then you can you can adjust some of that by room EQ upstream as needed. So the beauty is that this kind of puts it in its tailored space because it knows what it has done. So it adds the extra high frequency for the bend of the array. It, you know, deals with the mid-range coupling and deals with the LF coupling on how these boxes work. So hopefully that helps with that. This is again the big piece because this is doing all your work for you right here. And internally we have that happening. So subwoofers.
Hey, before we move on, I've got a question here that came up.
Absolutely.
Let's see, where to go? A question from Jose. How much improvement do you get when doing the speakers as two-way compared to passive, both in power and audio clarity, considering that it would also increment the number of amp channels and cabling required as well, too. So I don't know if you can speak to that.
I don't have quantitative information that tells me how much more improvement you get. You do get a lot more control over the array for your tuning as your high frequency and your LF midband is, easier to tune itself as opposed to having the dependency on our voicing algorithms to do that. Um, but obviously you're bypassing the crossover inside of the box, so you can run the drivers a bit higher. I would have to look into that with engineering and get back to you and see what they say on that because I don't have any personal knowledge of running it.
Yeah, and I think
You may know.
this one was like the question actually came in before you started into the arrays too. So yeah, I think I kind of agree with you, Trip. I think the primary benefit there is you're able to address the high frequency drivers separate from the mid and lows and be able to, that's the benefit that you're getting on that. So perfect.
And you will get more output, of course, because you're taking the crossover out of the path of the electrical signals.
Yeah.
But
There's another question that came in here before we move on from Jason Larvik. Is segment the same as amplifier? So
it's
I
not
think
the same.
I'll let you answer that. Yeah,
It's more or less amplifier connection. So if you had, as we showed in that other block, top four boxes were looped together in parallel, and then the bottom three boxes. So you have two amplifier connections there. That's what a segment is. It's a number of cabinets that are connected together in parallel.
perfect. All right. Hopefully that gets it. All right, let's move forward.
All right. So subwoofers. Where's this one? We'll go ahead and full screen it. So with the PL subs, we do offer cardioid setups now. It's not something we'd had before, but now it's innately in Q-SYS for you. And this is just to kind of show a couple of different things. End-to-end subwoofer cardioids are back to back, as they called it. So you've got a front firing and a rear firing boxes sitting right together, stacked on top of each other, which just tends to be more what's done, or either a left or right side by side setup. You can do two forward, one back, and a three box cardioid, or the two forward with one behind. And these are just the situations that are set up. But one thing I like to put out there is this is going to give you more energy into your space. Oh, why does it do that? As one firing forward, one firing back, you are going to lower the output of the single sub forward because you are using the sub firing backward to cancel out a large amount of that energy that's going behind it. And so you would get less low frequency into your space. So maybe looking at situations where you have the two forward and the one back to make sure you're getting the expected LF you're looking for, because this could lower the actual LF of two cabinets in the room to less than one cabinet forward. But that's why you see this with a lot of these boxes stacked. But a good pattern is 2 to 1 and 2 to 1, however that works. Or if we've had some deployments of 1 to 1, but just double sets, and that works very well too. The configuration of the cabinet is, your wiring connection is going to come to the back pin. We have to pull the panel out and actually do a jumper wire that comes out the port, and you can connect that to the grill. The grills are movable, so you can actually move the grill to the back, and so it looks like the front. It just simply unscrews off a couple screws down the side, and it will fit right in here, or you can buy a separate grill if you wanted to grill both sides to not have the woofer showing in the rear. But it all depends if you need to close off your ports or if you're outside in any environment, you would want to obviously put a grill on both ends if you wanted to have it look pretty on this end. And that's the idea behind it, is that you would just look pretty. Wow,
I,
this power
I have
does.
to say, that's probably one of the most, and I'll say Q-SYS or QSC things about that. I love that we come up with a fake grill for the other side for aesthetics, but cool.
All right.
John Fish has a question, says, when stacked, does the axis of the cardioid pattern tilt down or up slightly?
In my experience in the venues that we've used them in, it doesn't tilt at all. It just basically, you have 15 dB, 12 to 15 dB of rejection from the rear, and the LF starts as a cardioid right out the front. There is no tilting. Now, some minor delay added in your tuning capabilities, very possible. We didn't want tilting, so you don't want to pour it into the floor or anything like that. So right now it just acts as a cardioid output. And now we'll go back to Q-SYS and
Thanks.
see how that's put in there. And so for the cardioid subs, again, we're going to have us another amplifier because we like selling amplifiers. And so if your subs were just going to run straight, normal stacked set of subs, come here. This is generally your connection. You could even do 2 channels of the amplifier on a single sub if you're really pushing it. But in the setups where we get this is where, again, the properties are that it's not explained very well, is sub can be, that's the default thing. So you have Omni, which is the sub just working as a 18-inch driver. Both of them are set to Omni. Or you have cardioid stack back and cardioid stack. So if the first sub was going to say be the front firing sub, we would make that cardioid stack. And what that does is now you have the 2 subs that are working, and it's got them stacked in a cardioid setup. If we were to switch it to cardioid back, it flips one of the drivers inherently out of phase to do the cardioid featuring. So again, if you're going to do the Omni, you end up with a single wiring connection. But if you go into either of our predetermined, either just a stacked set, so that was the images of those with either 2 forward and 1 back, or 1 forward, 1 back, that gives you that. That's your front one. This Q-SYS tells you which one's the front, and there's your back one. And if we switch it to cardioid back, it's telling you which one's the front and which one's the rear also, so you know what drivers are firing which direction. So again, that comes to wiring it in the field. You got to make sure we get the right ones connected. We do allow for inline processing here. These subs did get the low pass moved also here, so you can change that on the fly if needed, as opposed to a recompile. And hopefully that helps with getting the cardioid subs connected up. And I believe that's the information we have. Any questions, anything else that needs to be brought up? Look at me pulling up wrong stuff here. Get away. But that was the end of this here, because basically our next, that was just showing you the connections of them and the with multiple subs. So if
Uh,
you had a double stack of like a quad stack, you would have 2 of those blocks that were doubled and have 1 front, 1 back. And that's a slight change from the older software that's actually out there right now, is that it's actually comparing, combining the 2 into 1 block, where in the past here, which was what this one was showing, each block was set up as its top, bottom, or front, back
uh,
in its own setup separately. So this is the current 10.0, and the way we just did it was 10.0.1, which should be out soon. That has actually made the combinations of these into one block.
Perfect.
So
Yes.
questions, anything, did this help?
Yeah, there's I don't have any questions coming in yet there, but I do think there's one thing that's important to bring out about all of the PL series minus is that we recommend all of the any of the amplifiers that would break down like a four a 2K4 is really the only speakers in the PL line series that we recommend that amplifier for is the CA5, 6, and 8. When you get any of the others, we didn't. There's none of the other amplifiers that we recommend that 2K4 amplifier for. So as you know, if you look at that, it's a 2,000 watt four channel. So it's roughly 500 per channel. But I think what I've been told by the development team is the DSP that gets offloaded into that amplifier needs the bigger amplifiers for that. So the 4K4, which is roughly 1,000 watts per channel, and the 8K4 2,000 times for that. So I think that's a key thing to just to keep in mind for folks. Would you agree on that?
Yes, these are our performance line of speakers. So we are put them out there so that you can get performance out of them. So we are, I would say, sticking in the 4K4 and 8K4 line, depending, 8K4 is obviously with line array and subs
Yeah.
because you're going to have multiple stacked cabinets. And a lot of times we even run two channels on the line array and two channels on a sub if you really want to, have high performance output. But the rated value for a line array is four of the line array cabinets, whether it's 8-inch or 12-inch, on one channel of an 8K4. That's the no more than four per channel and it's listed there with the speaker's spec.
I was noticing, and I was going to bring this question up too while we just have a few minutes, and I'm letting see if anybody else comes up with some questions too. Q-SYS Designer it had no way of knowing whether we had four boxes on the top and three on the bottom, but typically that break would happen somewhere. I mean, I guess, is there any guidelines on
Where the
that?
guideline is no more than four per channel.
Four per channel. Okay,
So I mean,
perfect.
we could have broke that into two per channel, two per channel, two per channel, you know, down if you wanted to.
Right.
But four would give you the impedance match for that channel. So that's why I did the four. And of course, costing. We'd love to sell you amplifier channels, but in
One channel for
reality,
every box.
you know, 3 or 4 boxes per channel becomes more in the mean of design efficiency.
Nice. Kind of that balance in between there. So, well, awesome. If there's any questions anybody has, please feel free. We got a few minutes. Or we can give you some of your day back as well too. So great new product line. They sound amazing. Of course, I'm going to say that, but
Yeah, and I
really,
don't, we didn't
truly
get
do.
very deep into all the features of each of the speakers and the line arrays and all that with the varying horn capabilities of the DC line that ship with the box. You can reconfigure your horn on the fly as needed. The basket actually comes out without pulling the driver out, so there's no dealing with a heavy weighted compression driver and all that. That's all stays mounted within the box. You just take the grill off, 4 screws, the basket comes out with the horn flares. The horn flares are adjustable in any of the pieces that are provided. There's a number of horn flares that ship with each of the boxes, all the way down to the DC 2.6 or the dual 6 version. The 2.4 has a fixed horn on it for its size, but
Yeah.
all the way up from there to the 12s, you have the ability to do asymmetrical, symmetrical, horizontal, rotating the horn 90 degrees to match whatever applications are needed. And we offer a very wide 120 by 50 down to, you know, 35-degree down, 50-degree up, different applications depending on how you're mounting your boxes. The
And I
CA
actually
line are, of
got a
course,
chance. I
they're all
actually got
coax, so you don't have to worry about changing those horns. They're coaxially loaded.
Yeah, I got a chance to actually configure a couple of these too when we were doing the experience center. We've got a few of those in one of the demo rooms in there. And you know, we actually put like a 50-degree side on, you know, the side that was so it wouldn't splash onto the wall as much as there. I mean, so it's really, it provides a lot of flexibility when you go into installing and stuff there. You know, obviously in the building next door, I have all the guys that helped design and create these, so that helped with getting it there. But yeah, really, and super easy to do. Like you said, you don't have to deal with the horn or anything like that in pulling the whole horn out. It's just easy to change out pieces on the front there. So a lot of that's in the help guides on those. So that's definitely a unique feature for those.
And the whole line is a departure from our DMT, which was our speaker line for many years, our horn and woofer crossover point matching, which was a conical based output. So now you actually have horn flare adjustments so that you can engineer the speakers into the spaces as needed.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, if nobody's got any other burning questions, whether either about what we covered or anything in the PL series, I'll give you guys another minute or so here. But other than that, I guess we'll give you some time back. Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks everyone. Hope it
Yeah.
helped. If there's anything that you were expecting that wasn't part of this, feel free to leave in the comments or whatever so we can update if need be.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Let us know and reach out if need be. You know, Trip and I are, Trip's a good resource for this, but you can also reach out to your, you know, your area managers and your area and regional application engineers. If you got any questions, or, you know, we would love to help you out along the way when if you're designing this or you have an application so that you have the best, you know, outcome as possible. So really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.